everyone, and welcome to my channel. If you're back, if you are new, welcome to my channel. I'm Shayna and I have another true crime case for you today. No surprises there. However, this one is different than the last two that I did. This one is an unsolved case. I am more of a solved case kind of person because I need closure. I need to know what happened. I need to know who did what they did. But in unsolved cases, there's also a lot to uncover, and this is a current case that's currently under investigation. So just a disclaimer, this video is just for educational and entertainment purposes. All the information is just what I have found on the internet, and I'm compiling for an educational video for yourself. So Alexis Sharkey was a social media influencer and just social media personality who went missing on Black Friday of this year. This is another case that's set in November. My story about Joel Guy Jr. was around Thanksgiving, and Alexis Sharkey's case is also, however, it literally just happened. This is 1 month ago. This is very current information. Alexis was a beautiful, outgoing, fun-loving, life of the party type of girl. She grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania in a two-parent household with two sisters, and she was a very, very smart girl. She was incredibly smart. She graduated summa cum laude from the University of Pitt. Now, I graduated with a degree in biology just like she did, but I didn't graduate summa cum laude, so biology is hard, okay? Them chemistry classes, they put me through it in college, but clearly she was bright, and her ultimate goal was to actually go on to medical school. So she graduated in 5 years from the University of Pittsburgh, and at that point she decided, you know what, I'm just gonna take a year off and then pursue medical school after taking just a break from school. After Alexis graduated from Pitt, she moved to Odessa, Texas, and she just picked up a job at this place called Twin Peaks, which for those of you on the East Coast, basically is a Hooters. You know, they cute waitresses with not very much clothing on serving you chicken wings, and that's the vibe of the place that she worked at. But she loved it. She absolutely loved it. She was, like I said, a very sociable person. She had a ton of friends. She just hit the ground running when she moved to Texas. She really didn't have any issues forming bonds with people and creating a home there. And she especially liked Texas because one of her goals, her dreams rather, was to live in a warm climate, a warm environment. She loved to travel, and in Pennsylvania, it gets very, very cold in the winter. Like the end of January, beginning of February is very cold. So I can understand why she would want to escape and go somewhere with nice, moderate temperatures. In 2018, Alexis began working for an MLM named Monat or Monat. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it, but basically she loved it because she was always kind of an earthy type of person, and Monat was dedicated to natural, cruelty-free kind of products is what I could glean from it. But she absolutely hit the ground running there too, and she was successful. There's pictures on her Instagram of her with $10,000 checks, and she used her social media platform to not only be the influencer that she was and to vlog and to document her life, but it was also a perfect platform for her to sell the products. So she was very successful with her job as well. Now, around this same time, Alexis was introduced to a man named Tom, and they were introduced by a mutual friend that she knew from Twin Peaks. Tom was a regular guy. He seemed to be a gentle giant. He was huge, very like stocky kind of guy, but he seemed to be down to earth. He was always in her vlogs, you know, going along with whatever she wanted to do. There's vlogs of them taking long vacations together. One notable difference though was that Tom was significantly older than Alexis. To be exact, there was a 23-year difference. To some people that might be striking. If you're over 21, you can make it do what it do. It's completely up to you. But 23 seems like a very striking difference. The life experience of a 48-year-old would be completely different than someone in their lower 20s. So, but nevertheless, She was very happy with Tom, and they seemed to be a match made in heaven. So she had the job, she had her degree, she now had a partner that she was happy with. She seemed to have it all. The two of them actually moved to Colorado when around the time that they met. It's not clear exactly what the timeline is, but they lived in Colorado together, at which point Tom proposed to Alexis in June of 2019. So June of last year he proposed, and they got married 6 months later. They actually got married at the courthouse, but there's pictures of her in a wedding dress. I don't know exactly how that works, but it wasn't a big extravagant wedding like you would expect someone like Alexis to have. She was the type of person who shared everything, who loved the finer things. You can tell by her Instagram, the way that she dressed, the way that she carried herself, the way that she documented literally everything in her life. It seems kind of odd that she didn't want to have that fairy tale wedding, or she didn't want to have any sort of a ceremony, but they just got married at the courthouse, and yeah. In January of 2020, Tom and Alexis moved to Houston, Texas. And Alexis had a ton of friends from her job, but from Monet, traveling the world, she had friends everywhere, but she really wanted to establish a friend group in Houston, where she was now calling home. So she downloaded this app called Bumble BFF. I've never heard of it. It sounds like Bumble, which is a dating app, but it's actually just a friend finder app. It's all platonic relationships on this app. So she downloaded Bumble BFF, and she found a friend group relatively quickly. She met a girl named Tanya, and then Tanya wound up introducing her to the rest of the friends of the group, if you will, and there were a total of 7 of them that became extremely close. Tanya was kind of the closest to her from what I could tell. Now, in the beginning of November of this year, Alexis had gone on a trip with one of her friends named Lauren, and Alexis actually confided in Lauren for one of the first times really about her marriage to Tom, and Alexis kind of broke down. This is all according to Lauren's statement. So she basically said Alexis let her know that she and Tom were not in the happiest of marriages, and she also divulged the information that Tom had put his hands on her on multiple occasions, sometimes choking her to the point that she blacked out and woke up on the bathroom floor. She just wasn't as happy as she was trying to lead everyone on to think that she was. And at this point, she was thinking about filing for divorce. She had been sleeping on the couch. Things just weren't as they seemed, which to Lauren was probably striking. Maybe as a close friend of hers, she might have noticed little things, but I'm sure she wouldn't have imagined that it was that bad. I mean, that's pretty bad. But Alexis never talked to her family about this at all. Her mom says that she had no idea. Her mom thought very highly of Tom. She thought that they were just extremely happy together. So, of course, this comes as a shock to a parent. But in my opinion, it doesn't really surprise me that her friends knew about the ups and downs of her and Tom's relationship when her family didn't. I know a lot of times if I'm dealing with a partner, I might talk with my friends about not the best parts of my relationship, whereas I won't talk to my family about all the nitty-gritty details, because your family, when you tell them stuff, they don't forget. Like, if my sister tells me about something that one of her partners does, I don't forget it, and it changes my perspective of that person forever. So, little sidebar, but I can completely understand why Alexis would have told her friend this and not told her family this. The Wednesday before Thanksgiving, Alexis was on the phone with her mom. She called home, and they actually hadn't seen each other for almost a year now due to COVID. They had exclusively video chatted and talked on the phone, but Alexis was actually planning to go home for Christmas this year, and she talked to her mom the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Now, Thanksgiving was obviously the next day on Thursday, and Alexis wound up spending the holiday with Tanya, and the evening of Thanksgiving she left, and she talked to Tanya again that next day, the Friday. But after about 6 p.m., Tanya stopped hearing from her, and she wasn't really sure what was going on. But when Friday had passed and then Saturday had come, she got kind of worried when she still hadn't heard from Alexis at this point. Alexis is the type of girl who has her phone glued to her hand at all times. She works from her phone. She has her social media platform, which at the time she had 20,000 followers on Instagram. The girl had her phone, okay? So when Tanya wasn't hearing back from her, she immediately knew something was wrong. So she called her, texted her. When she wasn't getting through, she actually pulled up to her house, knocked on the door, no answer. She actually sat outside her house for 3 hours. That is the true concern of a friend. She said no one came or went. There was nothing. There was no sign of Alexis. And at this point, she actually wound up calling Alexis's mother to let her know that Alexis was unaccounted for.
Yeah, I thought everything was fine. And then the next morning, I woke up really early. I sent a text to the group of girls. We have a shared chat and said, who's coming over, movie day or whatever. Alexis would have been the first person to respond. I mean, if I'm going to jail, Alexis is the first person I'm calling or texting because I know she's going to answer within seconds. So I started getting a little concerned and I said, this isn't normal. And so all the girls kind of got together and we were like, okay, well, when was the last time you talked to her? When was the last time you talked to her? And they all said around 6 p.m. Friday.
Now, there have been a couple statements from Tom that kind of seem odd to people. I'm not the judge or the jury, but Tom basically said that he and Alexis wound up spending Thanksgiving. It's really bothering me that this earring is straight and this one is doing this. Like, it's my OCD kicking in. Jeesh. But basically what Tom said was that he and Alexis had Thanksgiving breakfast together. They had a full Thanksgiving meal, turkey, stuffing, yams, mashed potatoes, all of that in the morning before Alexis went to her friend's house, which is odd. Just doesn't seem like something that people normally do. I know some people have Thanksgiving dinner kind of early, but in the morning, But nevertheless, he said that they had Thanksgiving breakfast, and on Friday, the next day, he and Alexis kind of got into a little bit of an argument. This is the evening time, mind you. And Alexis at this point was drinking. She was intoxicated. She was upset. And she wound up leaving the house. This strikes me as incredibly odd, the fact that Tom would let Alexis leave if she was in the condition that he knew that she was intoxicated. If I have a husband and I'm drunk, it is my husband's job to make sure I don't get behind the wheel or that I don't walk into the darkness. And if I'm married, it's my job to make sure that he also doesn't do that. When you're married, you just make sure that your partner's safe or follow me or something. Like, he just let her leave even though she was clearly drunk, according to him. Now, 8 a.m. Saturday morning, this is the same morning that Tanya is sitting in front of Alexis's house because she hasn't heard from her. There is a public works driver driving a sanitation truck through his normal route, and he's actually about 6 to 7 minutes away from Alexis Sharkey and Tom's apartment at this point. And he notices on the side of the road, kind of behind a tree, something that looks like feet, but he's not 100% sure if it's a person or if it's a mannequin. But either way, he's freaked out. So he calls his supervisor and says, hey, look, I'm not sure if I'm seeing a dead body right now, but I think you should come down here just so we can double check. Supervisor gets to the scene. They realize that it is an unidentified woman, and it was later identified as being Alexis.
John Richardson, it's a Saturday morning he'll never forget.
It plays back in my head. It's been playing back in my head every day.
He was at work for the City of Houston Solid Waste when Richardson says he got a call from an employee.
He said he thought he seen a body or a mannequin, so he wasn't for sure. He wasn't going to stop because he was kind of, he was scared or whatever case may be. So he asked me to come out there and check it out.
So as his supervisor, Richardson went to check it out and still can't believe what they found.
So as we was driving, we could see the feet, so we got out and looked. And there it was, she was laying there, deceased. She was no clothes on. And I just got on the phone and I called 911.
Now, she had no clothes on. She had no visible signs of injury, no scratches, scrapes, bruises, bullet wounds, literally nothing. And the driver also mentions that she was clean. She was unusually clean considering the fact that she was laying completely naked in dirt. And also given the fact that I really did my research, y'all. The night that she went missing, it was raining. It was a storm. So the fact that she was completely clean, his exact words were she was clean as though she got out of a bathtub, seems odd. She was pronounced dead at the scene and at this point had not been identified, so she was just being called Jane Doe until someone was able to identify her. Now, I put emphasis on her being clean because the medical examiner determined that Alexis was killed on Friday night. She was deceased at least on Friday night, but her body was discovered on Saturday outside. So if it had been raining, that means she was probably killed on Friday or died on Friday. We don't know exactly what happened. And then Saturday was placed where she was. The driver said she was placed gently. I'm sorry, it bugs me because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. When you hear murder cases, people are dragged through the dirt, they're scratched up, scraped up, stabbed, hair ripped out. But she was almost placed there with love, like delicately. He said that they laid her there. It's just super odd to me, but I'll move on. Now on Sunday, Tom goes down to the morgue after seeing a report on TV about there being an unidentified woman found dead on the side of the road. He identifies the woman, of course, as being his wife, Alexis. And what was odd about Tom at this point, at least, was that he had not actually reached out to the police. He didn't call the authorities for help. It was Alexis's mother who called from Pennsylvania about Alexis being missing. So it definitely strikes people as odd that Tom didn't make more of an effort to kind of communicate with the authorities that his wife was missing in action, left the house completely drunk, and he hadn't heard from her. In conjunction with the fact that Lauren, Alexis's friend, had also come forward saying that Alexis told her about Tom being abusive, you can see how the two things mixed together is not creating the best combination for our buddy Tom. Tom is obviously innocent until proven guilty, but we all know the likelihood of a woman being killed by a partner is uncomfortably high. When a woman is killed, it is majority of the time a current partner or an ex. Maybe it is presumptive to assume that Tom had something to do with it. I'm not saying that I do, but the masses basically do. Maybe it's presumptive, but people's thought process is this happens to women all the time. This happens to women all the time. And given that we know that he has literally choked her to the point that she blacked out, what are the odds that he is not involved in this? Since the incident, Tom and Tanya have received a ton of hate on their social media. People are really taking this case personal because Alexis has such an influence. She was such a positive, loving type of person that people just couldn't believe that something like this could happen to her. And they're really invested in her justice. So people have obviously expressed a lot of anger and frustration and hate towards Tom and how he's kind of been weird since the investigation started. And Tanya, for I don't know what reason, people are being mean to her, for lack of a better term. My personal opinion, it just seems a little weird. I don't trust any man that puts his hands on a woman under any circumstance. So if he is a coward enough to choke her, then he's a coward enough to kill her. That's just my opinion. But again, I'm not the judge or the jury. I'm just saying. Okay. We're waiting on the toxicology report, the exact cause of death, and the identification of any real suspects. So there's no identified actual suspects in this case. It is primarily public speculation. We also don't have any professional's opinion on when Alexis was placed on the side of the road. So it's unclear as to if she was killed where she was found. It's unclear as to if she maybe overdosed, which some people have a theory that that's what happened. It's unclear if she was killed at home maybe and then taken to the side of the road. There's a lot that we just don't know because there are records that are not being released yet, since it's still an open, sensitive investigation. It makes sense that a lot of this information is protected, but people are dying to know. I'm sure Alexis' family is absolutely going through it, and for all intents and purposes, I hope that she receives the justice that she deserves. Her life was taken way prematurely, so there's nothing that can even slightly make up for the loss of her life. But I hope that at the very least we're able to learn who could do such a horrible thing to her, and also learn how they did it, because again, it's sketchy that she had no wounds, no scratches, no scrapes, no nothing. This is a very sad case, and especially because she's at an age close to me. As someone who understands the social media mindset and having friends and sorority sisters and people who are close to me who are very invested, who make a living off of social media, who have a very popular presence on social media, it's like, whoa, this really happened to someone, to an everyday person. This isn't a murder case from 1972. This is today. People are actually still being killed coldly today, and this kind of was a wake-up call for me. I've noticed that I've just made more of an effort to be more careful in my everyday life, paying more attention to my surroundings, because it's some crazy mofos out here who don't got nothing to lose. So protect yourself at all times. Always look over your shoulder. Make sure when you walk in the darkness at night, you're not looking at your phone. People look for little stuff like that. A crazy person is not going to care how cute you are, how old or young you are, the fact that you got to get back to your family. A crazy person don't care. So just make sure you're always looking out for your best interest. Make sure if nobody don't got your back, you got your back. I'm done rambling. If you made it this far, you are loyal, you really are, and I appreciate you. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Peace.